Well, good evening. I'm Reverend Dr. Anthony Farmer, and welcome to another another edition of the Lion's Den, a sacred space for men who are experiencing grief. And it's been a couple of months since we've been together. Um, Many of you know that old saying that when man makes plans, God laughs. I am a demonstration of God laughing because I made plans to be more regular with the Lion's Den, and then life got it. Life took its turn to do what it wanted to do, and drag me with it. But nonetheless, we are back. So again, welcome to the Lion's Den, a sacred space for men who are experiencing grief. Um, Again, my name is Reverend Dr. Anthony Farmer. I'm a certified grief to gratitude coach and certified spiritual life coach, ordained interfaith minister, and teacher. And I was gifted the opportunity to create the Lion's Den, as often is on my path. God will say, we want you to do this, and I will say yes. And so I said yes, and so here we are. So the Lion's Den, again, is a sacred space for men who are experiencing grief. Um, the steps that we go through to understand grief and navigate grief and get some hold on it and learn how to express it. The steps aren't any different from men to women, but sometimes the way we process grief and the ways we address grief can be different just by nature of how we have taught how we were taught to be men versus women in societies and in cultures and religions and institutions, and sometimes there's some difference there. Um, and so, men, this is sort of a sacred space for us to kind of get in there and allow ourselves to understand grief and learn to navigate it. As I like to say, learn to navigate it. Grief, the understanding of grief that I sort of go on is grief is the reaction to a love that has lost its destination. When we have someone in our lives that meant something very special to us, that we love, we were connected to heart to heart, soul to soul, and then that something happens, that person maybe transitions to spirit, or maybe the relationship broke up, has broken up, or there's a turn, there's a difference, and where we used to focus our love is no longer there. And so grief is our sort of physical and emotional and mental and spiritual reaction to, I used to love in this direction and it's no longer there. What do I do with this love? And that energy gets trapped inside of us. And so it's love that has lost its destination. And so part of that navigating through grief is learning to, connect to that love and repurpose it and give it a new direction and give it and re-engage in that love in a positive way. And so the Lion's Den again is a place for men to come and so gain some skills or some tools or some conversations about navigating that grief, navigating that love that no longer has its previous destination, but that love is still there. That love is still there. And so uh, today's conversation, or the topic for today, is I was sitting somewhere and I heard it takes a village. I think I saw it maybe on a posting on social media. It's a saying that we've heard many, many times. It takes a village to raise a child. And I saw that and I heard it takes a village to navigate grief. It takes a village to navigate through grief. And so that was a light bulb in my head. It takes a village to navigate grief. Now, you know, grief is our own individual journey. It's our own experience of that loss, um, that love that was going someplace and now it's no longer going someplace. How our life has been disrupted by the loss of a loved one or the loss of a situation, a loss of a job, a loss of a pet, but some loss, something that was there that's no longer there. There's a disruption, and so our whole beingness is trying to understand, what do I do in this disruption? What do I do in this disruption? And so we have to navigate, our journey, understanding grief, understanding what we're experiencing, find ways to navigate it, find ways to such that it's not so much of a burden, it's so heavy. I don't believe grief goes away, but it can be repurposed, it can be understood. Um, it can no longer be as heavy as it used to be. That we still can live as we experience and navigate that grief. We just find different ways of being with ourselves. And so our journey through grief is our own journey. However, sometimes grief can show up as and with people is deep isolation. We withdraw from people, we withdraw from the world, or we suppress everything down, and then we try to place on this mask that I'm okay, I'm strong, I can handle this, I'm dealing with this. But all the while, things are going on inside and behind the scenes that says, everything is not okay. Um, and that's where the village comes in. That's where the village comes in. When I was thinking of the quote, it takes a village to navigate through grief, or the original quote, it takes a village to raise a child, and it's always an African proverb. Well, Africa is a huge continent made up of, you know, many, many countries. And in those countries, there are many different nations of people. And so to say it's an African proverb doesn't really give it its ownership. We don't give credit to whichever group of people actually said it. And so I went looking for it, looking for the who said, which group of people, which nation of people, which tribe of people said it takes a village to raise a child. And in the research that I did, it came back unknown. We know it came out of Africa, but we don't know exactly which country and which people of that country actually said it. And so my thinking was, unless I was willing to go even deeper into that, but my thinking was the saying is universal. It takes a village to raise a child. You probably could find it in those words or in some other form in every group of people, every nation of people, every language. Just as in Christianity, we have the golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. But when you look at all the other spiritual traditions in the world and all the other religions and all the other faith walks, everybody has a saying like that about how you treat people. And so I said, well, I believe this, it takes a village to raise a child, is probably universal. Um, because what it speaks to is the need for community. It takes a village to raise a child speaks to community. Having other people in your life connected to and interconnected that support the everyone's walk through life, everyone's purpose in life. We're all interconnected. And so with grief, we can find that same understanding that it can take a village to help navigate through grief. It takes people in our lives to listen, be it friends or family, or maybe professional support, professional listening support, uh, institutions or clergy, or it takes a village to support us in navigating through that grief such that we don't have to do it all by ourselves. Finding that village, if you will, that group of people, that person or persons, that you can feel safe enough within yourself to talk to them about what's going on with your grief. I find it necessary. I find that in my life, what I've learned is having an open-hearted conversation with someone I have grown to trust about what's going on. Some of my deepest, darkest things that are going on in my life helps with my healing because I get to bring it up, I get to bring it out, I get to express it, I get to hear it such that I can gain some clarity about what's going on. It's like I thought I was going through anger, but it wasn't anger, it was sadness, but I couldn't get that until I spoke it up and spoke it out. And so we all could use and benefit from having a village or community in our lives to help us navigate through the grief. And so as I was, formulating this, in my head and writing taking some notes down, and sometimes I lose myself in the short videos on social media, little small clips. And so one day, this clip came up, and it was a small excerpt from a podcast. And I believe the podcast is called Pivot, Pivot. I think it's Pivot. But I clicked on it, and in this particular section, it's a podcast of three men who were formerly professional football players, but they have this podcast where they talk about life and they talk about things in their life, not just about sports, but other things in their life and friendships and things that they're going through. Well, anyway, this particular issue, this particular podcast, the one guy said, there's three guys, but one guy said he was asking, guy number one was asking guy number two, I know you experienced, a death, because you've talked about it. And he said, he was saying that his father had just transitioned, his father had just passed away. And he was asking guy number two, how long do these feelings last? How long before I cannot feel these feelings anymore about missing my father or about thinking about him and I try to approach it as being a football player. Be strong, be a man, be strong for other people, and I want to make sure I get through this grief so I can be there for other people. He says, so how did you do it? How long did it take you to get through the grief? And guy number two says, you never get through it. And then he says, I don't think I want to get over it, not through it, but get over it. I don't want it to stop. And he says, my mother was very instrumental in my life. And, I had those experiences where I had triumphs and my mother was the first one I called, or she would call me. And he says, so when I have those triumphs in my life now, immediately I'm thinking, I gotta call my mother. Oh, or it reminds him that his mother's about to call. And he says, sometimes it can be tough, but it helps me remember how much I loved her, how much she meant to my life. So I don't want it to end. I don't want it to stop. Um, and the other guy was he told the other guy, and guy number one said, I want to be there for other people, be strong for them. And guy number two says, yes, be strong for them. He says, but you also have to give yourself time, to grieve, to get through it, to get on the other side of it, so to speak. Not grief gone away, but get through the initial stages of grief, if you will. He said, just give yourself some time. He said, be there for others, but also be there for yourself. And I'm watching this, and I probably have, added poetic license to what they were saying, but the essence of it, what I gathered was, here were three guys, three men, professional football players. They walk a line of being the strong man in society. on a podcast talking about their grief, sharing their vulnerability, sharing their feelings, because they did not hide that they were getting choked up by what was going on. I said, this is community. This is an example of a village. The three of them together, one sharing recent experience, the other one sharing how he has learned to navigate through it, and the third guy was there giving witness, being a witness too. And I said, that's an example of the village. It takes a village to navigate grief. And so, however, the first guy came into that conversation about grief, I would bet that he has shifted. That somewhere he's saying, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to give myself some space. It's okay to be strong for others, but also be strong for myself, but not so strong that I'm not open and honest about what I'm really feeling. But that was an example of it takes a village. And probably, and I don't know how long the podcast has been going on and how long they've been friends together, but I suspect over time they have developed a level of trust where guy number one felt it was safe to open up and share what's going on in his life. Villages aren't necessarily made in an instant. They can be. But the key to it is it takes a village. It takes a community to help us navigate through life and help us navigate through grief. Help us navigate through, some of the heavies of life. It takes a village to navigate through grief. It takes a community. It takes that sacred space where we feel safe enough, where I feel safe enough to share what I've been pushed down in my spirit, what I have pushed down in my soul, what I've been on some levels afraid to speak because of how I think people are going to perceive that. I've reached that, I've gone past that now. Sometimes I just spill it all out. But it takes a village to navigate through grief. It takes a community to support each other in navigating through life. It takes a village. So I offer for you to take a moment and ask yourself, who's my village? Who's my village? Who's my community that's helping me navigate through grief? Now, it could be family, but it could be friends. It could be some other people. It may not necessarily be the people that you go to church with on Sunday. It may be a different group. It may not be the people you hang out with on Friday. Well, my age, we hang out Friday afternoons because, anyway. It may not be your best friend that supports you through navigating through grief. It may be somebody else. Or it may be a best friend or 2 or 3 best friends or a small group of people. But who are the people of your village that helps you navigate through grief? Who are the people in your navigating through grief community that's helping you navigate through grief? That's listening with a non-judgmental ear. That's being present for you as you share what's going on with you. Who's your village? And if you don't have one, begin to ask yourself, who could be in my village? Who have I developed that level of trust that I can share what's present in my life about a recent loss? Not dump on them. Not hoping that they solve the problems, if they're problems, but someone or someone's that you can share what's present with you such that you can gain from that sharing and continue moving forward. It takes a village to navigate through grief. It's a call for community. I'm Reverend Dr. Anthony Farmer, and I look forward to the next episode, if you will, next conversation on the Lion's Den, the sacred space for men experiencing grief. It will not be another 2 or 3 months, I promise. Peace and love.